Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, January the 15th. We're going to cover Wednesday's 10-game slate, go position by position, just talk about the plays that stand out to me the most, looking at the slate the night before. We will talk about some Draftkings plays I like, and then we'll go over to Yahoo, discuss some guys that I like over there as well. As we go through each position, we will build out an early core of 5 players. These are 5 players that specifically catch my eye looking at this slate the night before. These are my first looks. I do provide a lot of updated in-depth content other than just these YouTube videos. I make these videos the night before, but over on Patreon, I do have a lot of exclusive content going up over there throughout the day. I post my article usually around 2 or 3 o'clock Eastern time, where I write up all the guys I like at each position, my favorite plays at each position, go really in depth on why I like them. Also, I do give updated core plays over on Patreon. I have a Discord chat that you guys can join. There's just a lot of exclusive content going up over there throughout the day. So if you want to check out all the exclusive content I do have to offer on Patreon, you can do so, link down below. If you do become a Patreon member by Friday, you will be entered into our $100 free roll contest. I will be running another $100 contest on DraftKings for Friday's NBA slate. If you are a Patreon member, you will be able to access the link to join that contest. So if you have ever thought about joining the Patreon, becoming a member, now would probably be a good time. You join by Friday, you have a chance to win some free money coming out of my pocket. Do want to give back to those that really support my content. Like, I can't thank you guys enough for showing all the love you have to me on this YouTube channel, to my content on Patreon. It's been a dream, man. So thank you, everyone. I always appreciate your guys' support, the likes, the comments. They really do mean a lot. So before we get started, guys, gonna plug the likes. Make sure you do drop a like if you enjoy these videos. If you are new, you can hit that subscribe button as well. You can click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. Also, you can follow me on Twitter, as you can see in the bottom right hand corner. If you do want to follow me on Twitter, link to my Twitter account is down below at DFS by Noah, along with the link to my Patreon. But let's go ahead and take a look at Wednesday's slate. We'll start off at point guard. So at the top, we got Luka and James Harden as our two most expensive options. Two most expensive options. Both these guys over $12K on DraftKings, and then you have LeBron James at 10-4. So Harden, I was very heavy on Tuesday night with Russell Westbrook out. Obviously, totally different situation. Tuesday night I was very heavy on Harden. Totally different situation today with Westbrook playing against Portland. I mean, it's a good matchup for Harden. Portland does play fast. They have really struggled defensively versus point guards this season. But I just don't want to pay this price tag for Harden on a slate where, I mean, we've got value. We've got potential value, at least as of now. But I think there are other studs I'd rather go to, like especially if Anthony Davis is out. I'd rather save $2,000 off of Harden and play LeBron. I love Jokic in this spot against the Hornets. Potentially no Jamal Murray for the Nuggets today. He's questionable. Gary Harris is questionable. Paul Millsap's already out. So the Nuggets could actually be a team we kind of really focus on today's slate and could look to for some value. If we do get some value there, it will be easier to pay up for Harden. But now that Westbrook is playing, I just don't think he's a core play for me. Porzingis is expected to be back as well. So Luka 12-1, I can shy away from. If I'm going to pay up at point guard, it would be for LeBron James, especially if Anthony Davis is out. I haven't seen like any updates. He didn't play Monday against the Cavs. Reports were that he's like still sore. Like, he's feeling better, but he's still sore. So I think there's a chance he doesn't play today. And maybe I think the Lakers play Thursday or Friday. I can't remember. But maybe if he's able to play one of those two games, I could see him being able to play then. At home against the Magic, they should probably win this game pretty easily. I think Davis, if I had to guess, I would say he sits out again, which makes LeBron a really good option at 10-4. LeBron's numbers this season with AD off the floor, they are really good. I can pull them up just real quick. His usage rate is over 30, I think it's 37% with AD off the floor. He averages 1.6 fantasy points per minute. His assist percentage is through the roof. 37% usage rate, 1.63 fantasy points per minute, 41% assist percentage. Definitely would go to LeBron as the top point guard if AD's out. But then some of these other guys we have, Zach LaVine I want to talk about. So he's really expensive on DraftKings. He's 9,300. I like LaVine in this matchup. I shouldn't even say I like him. I mean, I love LaVine in this matchup against the Wizards. We know how bad this Wizards team is. Dead last in defensive rating on the season. If you look at pace stats, the Wizards rank 5th in pace this season. They've just been a target all year for me. taking guys against the Wizards has pretty much just been like a print fest. So it's a great matchup for LaVine, but at his $9,300 price tag, like, you need him to put up nearly 60 DraftKings points to be like an elite tournament play at that salary. He has that upside in him, but I think if I'm going to target LaVine, it's going to be over on Yahoo. That's where I have the most interest in him. He's $37. Like, comparing his price tag to some of the other players on Yahoo, like, he's $10 cheaper than Bradley Beal. He's $6 cheaper than Lillard, $6 cheaper than Irving, $4 cheaper than Whiteside. He's $3 cheaper than Lowry. Like, I definitely like LaVine over all those guys, especially when you factor in that he is cheaper than them. So if I'm going to play LaVine, it's going to be at his $37 salary on Yahoo. Like, the upside's definitely there. Like, we've seen LaVine. He has 50-point upside. He's gone for over 50 fantasy points. Just in his, like, last 6 games, he has 3 games over 50 fantasy points, or last 7 games, I should say. Against Washington, these teams did play pretty recently. December 18th, LaVine played 43 minutes and had 43 fantasy points. Honestly, wasn't that productive on a point-per-minute basis. Like, there is so much upside for LaVine. He's going to be much more productive, I feel, than he was the last time these teams played. So, love going him on Yahoo at $37. $9,300 on DraftKings. You can probably look elsewhere at that salary. Someone I do want to talk about, though, on DraftKings is Kyrie Irving. So he's $7,900 on DK. His price tag is really, really low since coming back from injury. He played Sunday against the Hawks. That was his first game back. He played 20 minutes. He did play 15 minutes in the first half, but that game ultimately wound up being a blowout, so Irving really didn't need to play much at all in the second half. Played 20 minutes, had 32 DraftKings points. He did put up a monster game on Tuesday night against the Jazz. He finished that game with like 55 or 60 DraftKings points, played like 32 minutes. Irving's already come out and said that he plans on playing in the back-to-back. So I'm going into this slate assuming Kyrie plays. Since he got 32 minutes on Tuesday, I'm assuming he gets probably 30 to 32 minutes again. And like Irving, his rates this season, this dude has been incredibly productive. I mean, people might have forgotten about him just because he hasn't played in a while. But if you look at his numbers, he's been an elite fantasy player this season, averaging 1.48 fantasy points per minute, 33% usage rate, 36% assist percentage. Like, he should not be $7,900 on DraftKings. Even in a tough matchup against the Sixers, like Kyrie, his floor, I mean, when healthy this season, his floor has been like 45 to 50 DraftKings points. Like, this is a 9K, near 10K player when he's healthy. And given that he played 32 minutes on Tuesday night, I'm assuming he's full go for this game. He's already said he wants to play, and he's going to play. So, really like me some Kyrie on DraftKings at $7,900. Yahoo, they did a good job of pricing him up. He's $43, same price as Damian Lillard. You can probably look elsewhere. It's mainly just a DraftKings play where he's $7,900. That's where I have the most interest in him. But then guys like SGA coming off a monster game, last game against the Timberwolves, 36 minutes, had a triple-double, had 20 points, 20 rebounds, and 10 assists, 66 DraftKings points. His price skyrocketed to $7,400 on DK. Against the Raptors, very tough matchup. If people are going to game log and chase this SGA game, like, SGA is a very talented player. He's got a lot of upside, but now that he's up to $7,400 and it's a bad matchup, like, I'll just shy away from him. I like other guys today. One of those guys I do like is Malcolm Brogdon. A little bit cheaper, $700 cheaper than SGA. Like, give me Brogdon all day here against the Timberwolves. Very, very affordable at this salary of $6,700. First game back from injury. Last game against the Sixers, he played 34 minutes, was not limited at all, had 46 DraftKings points, 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists. He nearly had a triple-double. We kind of saw the old Brogdon that we were seeing like at the beginning of the season. I mean, he's definitely slowed down towards like this part of the season. Like, this was a guy that was putting up 40, 50 DraftKings points almost every night. Definitely has slowed down then, but I mean, he's still a very productive player. We can look at his rates this season. Just like how productive he's been on a point-per-minute basis. I'm pretty sure he's second on this team in usage, if I'm not mistaken. Or he actually leads the team in usage. 26.8% usage rate, averaging 1.18 fantasy points per minute, 37% assist percentage. Like, Brogdon's still been an elite fantasy player this season. It's a great matchup against the Timberwolves. This Timberwolves team ranked 4th in pace this season. They've been better defensively since Karl-Anthony Towns went down. Like, losing Karl-Anthony Towns has actually made them a better defensive team. But they still do play at a very fast pace, which is nice for the Pacers here, getting an up-and-pace matchup. So I really like Brogdon at his DK salary. I like him on Yahoo as well. If we do go over to Yahoo, Brogdon is very affordable over here. He's all the way down at $26. Like him quite a bit at his Yahoo salary as well. just really stands out on both sides. Coming off a big game, looked really good in his return. I think he keeps that going here in a really good matchup against the Timberwolves. But then other point guards that we can maybe look to, not much else in the mid-range I like. In the 5K range, I mean, there really isn't much that stands out here either in terms of core plays. Like, I don't see any core plays in this price range. For value, there's really not a lot of great value either. DJ Augustine, he is doubtful today. I guess we can talk about Markelle Fultz. I mean, even with Augustine out, I think it was Friday night, like last Friday against the Suns, even with Augustine out that game, like Markelle Fultz still only played 31 minutes. Like, it just doesn't seem like they're going to give him big minutes. So I would, if they would play Fultz like 34 minutes, I would like him. But given that he seems to be limited like 30 to 31 minutes, hard to consider him like a core play today. So I guess we will talk about one guy. So we don't know yet if Jamal Murray's out. This is a big injury to watch. This is actually going to be one of the biggest injuries on the slate, at least as of Tuesday night. Like, maybe something else could change and some more injuries could break. But just this Denver team in general, we definitely need to talk about. So right now, as I'm recording this Tuesday night, Jamal Murray is questionable, Gary Harris is questionable, and Paul Millsap has already been ruled out. I was looking through Twitter, kind of looking at like what some beat reporters were saying, and a lot of beat reporters were saying that they don't expect Murray or Harris to play. Mike Malone came out and said that he was surprised they played last game. If you look at Yahoo's blurb on Murray, you look at the like the writing or whatever from Roto World 11 hours ago, Murray rarely misses games, although Mike Malone said after Sunday's game that he'd be surprised if Murray were available for Wednesday. So I'm kind of going into this slate considering Murray and Harris both doubtful rather than questionable. And with them potentially missing and me assuming they're going to miss, I mean, Monte Morris is going to be one of the top value plays on the slate. He's only $3,600 on DraftKings. His price tag was not adjusted for the chance that Murray is out today. It's a great matchup against a terrible Hornets defense. This Hornets team, looking at defensive rating, they rank 28th in defensive rating. I have a feeling we're going to be going pretty heavy on the Nuggets tonight, especially if guys like Murray, Harris do wind up being out. That is going to open up a lot of value. So I like Morris quite a bit on both sides. Going him at $3,600 on DK. If we look on Yahoo, he's minimum salary $10. Like, assuming Jamal Murray sits, which I am, I'm going to be all over Monte Morris as a value play. And we will talk about some other guys that we can target from Denver, like if Gary Harris is out, where we can look to there. But let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard now. So at this position, looking at guys I haven't talked about, really not much that stands out. I mean, Bradley Beal does feel a little bit underpriced against the Bulls, but it is a very tough matchup. The Bulls are actually a really good defensive team. But I imagine this game, I don't think we have a total, or we do actually have a total on this game. It has a 227 total, which right now is the second highest on the slate behind Portland and Houston. Like, this is going to be a good game to target. It is a tough matchup, though, for Beal. For what it's worth, he only put up 45 DK points in 40 minutes against the Bulls earlier this season. They have been really good against guards and like just defending guards in general. The Bulls have actually been like a really good defensive team this season. They're 9th in defensive rating. Like, they're better than the Pacers in defensive rating, better than the Nuggets. Like, the Bulls have actually been really good. If you're going to target them, you want to target them with like power forwards and centers. That's where they really struggled this season. So tough spot for Bradley Beal, but his price tag is pretty appealing on DraftKings at $8,400. But if I can save, like, I would just rather save salary though and play like Kyrie, play Malcolm Brogdon, just go to these guys instead. Even if Towns is out, like Andrew Wiggins just hasn't done anything recently with Towns out. Like, he's just literally, he's not doing anything right now. Against Houston, 25 minutes, 15 DK points. Against OKC, a close game, 31 minutes, 19 DK points. Like, it just seems like the Timberwolves are kind of giving up right now. They're just playing their young guys. They're running a 12-man rotation. Like, I really have no interest in the Timberwolves at all right now. Even if Towns comes back, like, it's just going to be so mucky there that they're just playing so many guys. Guys like Naz Reid, Jeff Teague's getting like 15, 20 minutes. His minutes are very hard to predict. Just really hard to predict how that rotation is going to go. So we'll take a look at some other guys we could target other than Andrew Wiggins. McCollum in a fast-paced game against Houston, I could see looking to. He was really affordable on the last slate. He was $6,100 against Charlotte. He did have a big game, 42 DraftKings points. The prices come up to $6,800 on DK, so not nearly as good of a play as he was on the last slate, but the matchup is really good. The game environment's really good, so if you're like looking to target that game in general, stacking it up, I could see going to CJ McCollum in that situation. In the mid-range, though, not really much that stands out here. Obviously, you could target Fultz, but even with Augustine doubtful, it just doesn't seem like they're going to give him a ton of run. He's just going to be limited to 30 to 31 minutes. I mean, even in 30 to 31 minutes, like Fultz can still go out there and put up nearly 40 DraftKings points, but for what it's worth, very tough matchup against the Lakers. Still wouldn't consider him a core play today. For value, though, if we are looking for cheap plays at shooting guard, looking for some cheap options here, there's one guy I do want to talk about. Terrence Ross for 4,400, I think, is in play as a value. With DJ Augustine doubtful on Friday night against the Suns, we did see Terrence Ross pick up 32 minutes off the bench and had 27 DraftKings points. With Augustine doubtful today, I think Ross probably gets 30 minutes again, if not more. He's 4,400. It's not a good matchup, but he's very cheap, and the minutes are going to be there, or they should be there at least. So I'm fine using him as a value play at shooting guard if you do want to go cheap. But honestly, I think that's it for value plays at the position, just in terms of cheap options. We'll talk about if Gary Harris is out, who to target there. Harris, questionable right now. We'll hit on Michael Porter Jr. We'll hit on when we get to small forward. He could be another value to target from Denver today. But let's go ahead and move on to small forward. So looking at small forward, Luka 12-1, I'll be avoiding with Porzingis expected to return. I just don't want to pay that price tag when Porzingis is healthy. LeBron, I do like a lot if AD's out again. He's definitely one of my favorite small forwards to target. Ben Simmons, I have some interest in, but not a core play for me. 8,700, that's a pretty hefty price tag for Ben Simmons. He can still have a ton of success, especially with Joel Embiid out. Like, there's upside for Ben Simmons, just 8,700. Wouldn't consider him a top option on today's slate. Will Barton, especially with all the potential injuries to Denver, he's in play for me. 7K on DraftKings is a pretty hefty price tag, but I expect him to get more usage. Like, let's just look at the numbers this season with all. We'll take all those guys off the floor, assuming they're out. So we know Millsap's going to be out. It seems like Gary Harris and Jamal Murray are both going to be out, so we'll take them off the floor as well. See what kind of sample size we get. I believe the Nuggets did call up somebody from the G League, which makes me assume both those guys are going to be out. So with all three of Millsap, Harris, Murray off the floor this season, we'll talk about Nikola Jokic. I mean, it's an incredibly small sample size, but he's averaged 1.55 DK points per minute, 32% usage rate. Will Barton, 1.12 fantasy points per minute. We'll see the differential there. Like Jokic sees a 6% bump in usage. Barton sees a 5% bump in usage. Like if Millsap, Harris, Barton, if all three of those starters, well, we know Millsap's going to be out, but if Harris and Murray are out, all three of those starters wind up being out, like definitely going to be loading up on these Denver guys. Will Barton would for sure become a play. It's 7K on DK. $25 on Yahoo at small forward. Like he would definitely be in play at small forward. Probably would be one of the better options to target at that position. But that'll just kind of have to be a wait and see for me. I don't want to plug in Barton right now, but he will definitely be on my radar if both those guys are out, which, like I said, I am assuming they are going to be. Seems like Malone doesn't expect them to play today. But other small forwards, Carmelo in a fast-paced game against the Rockets, I think you could target for 6,200. He's coming off a pretty nice game against the Hornets. Had a really good matchup. Did produce very well in that game. Kyle Kuzma is still in play for me. If AD remains out, you could look to him at 5,800. He could be in play at small forward. For value, though, if we're going cheap at the position, under 5K, I mean, there's really not much that stands out. You got Terrence Ross that you could play. I expect him to get some more minutes today. But let's talk about Michael Porter Jr. So assuming both Harris and Murray are out today, we should most likely see Monte Morris start for Jamal Murray, and then we should see Michael Porter Jr. start for Gary Harris. Michael Porter Jr. is 3,700. If he winds up starting, he's going to be a really good value play. I know that he was like really popular. Can't remember what slate it was. I think it was, let's see. It was one of these slates recently. I think it was this one against Dallas. Everybody, including myself, we went into the slate assuming he would start. He didn't wind up starting. We still thought he would get the minutes off the bench, and he ultimately played 14 minutes off the bench and had 6 DraftKings points. He burned a lot of people, including myself, that day. If he winds up starting today, if there's no Harris and no Murray, like I'm going to go right back to Michael Porter Jr., 3,700 on DraftKings. Like he's been productive this season when given the minutes. He's averaged a fantasy point per minute in 162 minutes with all three of these guys off the floor. So I'm going to have some interest in MPJ. He would become a really good value along with Monte Morris. I could have plugged him in, but we'll talk about some other values that I do like in a second. So let's go ahead and move on to power forward now. So AD at the top here for 10K. If he plays today, he's in play for me at this salary. He's not going to be like a core play, but if he's in, I mean, he's definitely a good option to go to at 10K. That is a little bit too cheap of a price tag for AD if he's fully healthy. We don't know his status yet, though. I'm assuming he remains out. It just seems like he's not fully ready to play right now. So I'm assuming he's going to be out. So other power forwards we could look to. Sabonis, I think you could target for 8,300. He's questionable as well, but he played on their last game against Philly. I'm assuming he plays again, so I like Sabonis at his $8,300 salary. His price has definitely come down from what it's been like the last few slates. Like he's been near 9K and now he's down to 8,300. Like Sabonis has just been so incredibly consistent this season. Pretty much a lock for a double-double. Feels like the guy has literally like a 40-point floor right now. So I do have some interest in him, paying up at power forward. Other power forwards though that we could look to, like Siakam's really cheap, but we just don't know what his minutes are going to look like. I mean, first game back from injury, he did play 30 minutes and had 27 DraftKings points. He wasn't really productive. The price did come down quite a bit, though. I mean, if we're going to get 30-plus minutes from Siakam at 7,800, like he is definitely in play on today's slate. Wouldn't be like a core option, but I would have him in my tournament player pool if I was playing multiple lineups. He would be on my radar. Al Horford with Embiid out, starting at center against Brooklyn, 6,700. You could definitely go to him at power forward. I like Carmelo in this fast-paced game, so you could look to him at 6,200. Like I said, Kuzma you could target if AD's out. Other guys, like really not much stands out at power forward. It's a really good matchup for Jeremy Grant. He could be on my radar today with Paul Millsap out. The minutes should be there. Played 33 minutes last game with Millsap out. He's not going to be really productive, especially when he's playing like alongside Jokic. He's not going to be a productive player, but it's a really good matchup. The minutes should be there. He's still cheap on DK. I mean, he's not cheap, but he's still 5K. Like he can pay off that salary. I know he's cheap on Yahoo though. He's $11 at power forward. If you want to target Jeremy Grant on Yahoo, you definitely can. It is a really good matchup. Power forwards against the Hornets been kind of a gold mine this season. They've really struggled to the position, so he's in play. But then for cheap values, like there's really not much at power forward that stands out for cheap. Besides one guy we're about to talk about that I do like. Michael Porter Jr., though, you could target at power forward. But Cody Zeller I want to hit on. So he's 3,900 on DraftKings. He is very cheap. We saw it was Sunday, I think it was. Or no, not Sunday, but Monday against Portland. Cody Zeller actually wound up starting that game ahead of Bismack Biyombo. And Bismack Biyombo actually didn't even play at all. Willie Hernangomez got a lot of run off the bench. I don't know if they do that again, but I'm going into this slate assuming Cody Zeller starts again. If he's going to start at center for 3,900, like they're going to need a guy with size out there against Jokic. Like you're not going to be able to go small and play like PJ Washington at center. That's just not going to work against this Denver team. So like if Zeller starts and gets, I mean, if he starts, I'm assuming he plays at least like 24, 26 minutes, if not more. 3,900, he is definitely on my radar as a value play. He has power forward and center eligibility on DraftKings, which is very appealing. And on Yahoo, even though it's only one position, like even though guys don't have multiple, even though guys aren't eligible at multiple positions, Zeller is also power forward on Yahoo, which is very appealing. So assuming he starts again, I like him quite a bit as a value play. Like he's been productive this season. We can look at his fantasy point per minute rate. Pretty sure he's been a point per minute player. We'll check that just real quick. Like we saw at the beginning of the season, like Zeller was like a 6K player every night, was putting up 30, 35 DraftKings points every night. He hasn't done that recently because he's kind of lost minutes. He's been coming off the bench. Bismack Biyombo's getting a lot of run. But if they're going to go back to Cody Zeller at center and start playing him 28 to 30 minutes, like he's a really good value play. Averaged a fantasy point per minute this season. I mean, 26, 28 minutes of Cody Zeller, if he starts, that's on my radar for sure. So I like plugging him in as an early look value. The only thing that sucks, though, is that we're not going to know the Hornets starting lineup by lock. Like, this is a 9 o'clock game. We're probably not going to get their starting lineup till later tonight after lock. If Zeller is not starting at center, then I would probably maybe look to swap to someone else if you can. Like on Yahoo, you can swap to Jeremy Grant, who's $3 less, which is an easy swap you could do. On DraftKings, just kind of have a, like, I think, I don't know if there's really any swaps you could do. I guess you could swap to Michael Porter Jr., so if you don't have Michael Porter Jr. and if he winds up starting, that's an easy swap because Porter Jr. has power forward eligibility. So just be keeping an eye on the Hornets starting lineup. I'm assuming Zeller remains in there, so that's why I like him as a value play on both sites. But now we'll talk about center just before we end the video. So Karl Anthony Towns at the top, questionable again for like the 15th game in a row. I'm assuming he remains out until he does play, so I'm going into the slate. I don't think he plays. Even if I'm going to pay up a center, like Towns is not going to be the guy I look to because I really like Nikola Jokic in this spot against the Hornets. 10-1 on DraftKings, Yahoo. Looking over here, he's $41. He's my favorite center to pay up for on today's slate. And like I said, and like I've been saying throughout the video, I think Murray and Harris are both going to be out today, which is just going to open up even more usage for Nikola Jokic. You look at the numbers, I had them pulled up, but I'll pull them up again just so you guys can see. Like his usage is like 33% with all those guys off the floor. I didn't want to go Dallas Mavericks. Let's go to Denver Nuggets. Take Millsap off, who we know is going to be out. Take Harris and Murray off, who I believe are going to be out, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. I'm assuming they're both going to be out. Small sample size, but in 28 minutes this season, all three of those guys off the floor. 33% usage rate, 32.6% for Jokic, averaging 1.55 fantasy points per minute, 28% assist percentage, near 19% total rebound percentage. Sees a 6% bump in usage, 0.17 bump in his fantasy point per minute average. Like really good bumps for Jokic. It is a smash spot as well. Like this Hornets team just been getting killed by bigs this season. Terrible rebounding team. Like this is easily a spot where Jokic could put up a triple-double. Hornets ranked 27th in rebound percentage. Love this spot for Jokic. Just need the game to stay competitive. And I think if like Murray, Harris, if all these guys are out, like it's much more likely the game stays close. So I love going to these Denver guys today. Let's see if. So we have a total. We have a 210 total right now, but we don't have a spread yet, which is kind of aggravating. But I mean, if I have to guess, I'd say this game probably like maybe Denver's favored by 9, 10 maybe. I think the game can stay close, especially if it's just like Jokic and, I mean, I'm trying to think who are going to be the only starters healthy, like Jokic and Will Barton. If those are going to be the only two starters that have like been in the starting lineup since the beginning, if it's going to be those two guys playing with a bunch of backups, then I think this game can stay close. Jokic should get a lot of usage. It's a great matchup. Just love him on today's slate. One of my favorite spend-up options. But other centers you could look to, like you could definitely go to Drummond, especially if KANTER winds up starting again. Like that's a really good matchup for Drummond. Drummond without Blake Griffin, we know is going to be very productive. It was weird to see that he only played 22 minutes last game against the Pelicans. Like I did not expect that at all. They closed that game with Christian Wood. That game went into overtime, and Drummond didn't play in overtime at all. So like who knows what his minutes are going to look like today? But I'm assuming he goes back to his full run. Boston's a team you can't attack with bigs, especially since they don't have Al Horford anymore. If KANTER winds up starting again, like I said, that'll be a really good matchup for Drummond. So I do like him quite a bit. I just prefer to get up to Jokic if possible. Sabonis I like against Minnesota. Whiteside, Capella, both these guys you could target in a fast-paced game. If I had to choose one, though, I would prefer to go to Whiteside just because he's the more productive player. Both guys should play relatively big minutes, though. Even though Whiteside, like, he killed me on the last slate. I was very heavy on him against Charlotte. Only 24 minutes, just 25 DraftKings points. Incredibly tilting. I don't expect that to continue. Like, Whiteside, especially, like, this season, I mean, he's been getting big minutes, 32, 34 minutes. So I would have him on my radar for sure. 8,200. Slightly prefer him over Capella. Horford, you can play in the mid-range. I have some interest in him. Lauri Markkanen in a really good spot against the Wizards. He would be in play for me for sure. I think he's really cheap on Yahoo if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Lauri Markkanen, $19 on Yahoo against the Wizards. Like I like that quite a bit. Even though he only played 25 minutes last game, I'm assuming he's full go today. So I like him in the matchup for sure. If ENES KANTER does start, 5,700, you could look to him. He burned me on the last slate as well. Only 27 DraftKings points in 26 minutes. I was expecting a much bigger game from him against the Bulls. It didn't work as I planned, but if they're going to keep starting KANTER, if Tice remains out and KANTER's going to start and play 26, 27 minutes at 5,700 with how productive of a player he is, he would definitely be in play for me. We'll need to keep an eye on the status of Thomas Bryant. It was his first game back from injury Sunday, I believe. He only played 15 minutes off the bench, just 13 DK points. Who knows what kind of minutes limit he's on today, but if he's back in the starting lineup and like if he can play 30 minutes in the starting lineup against the Bulls, like he is a top play at 5,400, but that'll just kind of be news. We have to wait and see on Wednesday. And then Grant you could play with Millsap out. Gafford, he's been starting at center over Thaddeus Young. If they're going to keep starting him, giving him 24, 25 minutes against the Wizards, he could be an option to look to. Wouldn't be like a top value play, though, because, I mean, his price has come up quite a bit on DraftKings at 4,900. Honestly, though, I think that's probably it for center in terms of like value plays. I think we covered everything here. So I think that's it for today's video, guys. Broke down each position, talked about some of my favorite options that I see at each position. Like I said at the beginning, guys, I do have a ton of exclusive content going up on Patreon throughout the day Wednesday. My article, updated court plays. You can get in our Discord chat and talk through the slate with me and with everyone else in the chat. A ton of stuff's going up over there. If you do join by Friday, if you do become a Patreon member by Friday, you will get access to the $100 free roll contest that I will be running on Friday's NBA slate. So check out the Patreon. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. You can follow me on Twitter as well, link down below, and my Patreon's also linked down below. But yeah, guys, I think that's it. Good luck tonight. Appreciate all your guys' support. Love you, and good luck. Peace.